Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of the Venn Pod. I'm Alex, and next to me is.
Hi guys, it's Hannah.
So today we thought it would be cool to talk about rehearsals, practices. I even think it would be cool to include the concept of chamber music because I think things vary just the slightest bit. This is mostly Hannah's dream topic, I feel like.
Oh, it's my dream topic.
Not dream topic, but I feel like you have a better appreciation and like a bigger perspective on ensembles being at a school who is known for its like wind ensemble, for example. Like your approach to ensembles has probably like shifted quite a bit since being at UNT. So I feel like you have more to say than me for someone who's like very, I don't want
Well,
to like throw myself under the bus, but someone who's very appreciative of large ensembles.
I was about to say, well, Alex is a really great ensemble member, and I learned a lot from Alex about how to be a good ensemble member way back in the day at Messiah University. But Alex is a chamber music queen. If you haven't been keeping up with her on Instagram, she's in literally every chamber group known to mankind. You probably see her with her dolly rolling all over ASU. So, she's going to have plenty to say about being a good chamber ensemble member a little bit later. But yeah, I felt like this was a pertinent topic for us because obviously as musicians we spend a lot of time in ensembles, whether that's in our school, whether that's like in a gigging situation, and it's important that we approach those scenarios as professionals. We say that a lot on this podcast, but like school is the time where you practice being a professional, because in the field, if you are late to a rehearsal, if you show up unprepared, that's your job on the line. Like that's not just an oops, that's like an actual like professional problem. And so I just wanted to I felt like it would be good for us to just get on here and talk about how do we be a good ensemble member? What are some ways that we can do that? And so one of the biggest ways obviously is come with your music prepared. That kind of like goes without saying, but I feel like in our undergrad, Alex and I were kind of at the point where we didn't have to practice our big ensemble music, and in a big ensemble you can kind of hide in the safety of other people's sounds, right? You can be like, oh, it's all good, like I know I'm playing with this person, so like if it's not 100% I'll be fine. I'm not going to say that I haven't thought those things, but it's really important that you can own your own part, because when your stand partner is having a bad day and they messed up that run, are you going to be able to like carry the weight and play it? Or if they're not there, people getting sick all over the place these days, what are you going to play it? Are you going to rely on them then? Like what then?
And I think to tie into what you're saying, like how I talked about early on incorporating chamber music, I think it's important for us to differentiate like these things per ensemble. So like for wind ensemble, it's much easier to hide if you're not prepared. But let's say you're in orchestra, it's a one on a part. There's no hiding. It's like you have to have your music ready or else you will be like called out or you will stand out for not being prepared. Likewise, for being a chamber musician, you have to be prepared. It's just one on a part most of the time, especially if you're a wind player. So yeah, it's easy to hide. And I don't know, I feel like I'm on both sides of the topic because sometimes I wasn't prepared, but I feel like Hannah was mostly my stand partner at Messiah. So I would be honest about whenever I wasn't prepared and be like, okay, carry that lick for me. Or if I knew I wasn't as confident in something the way Hannah was, I'd be like, okay, you play that out, then we switch over. You know what I mean? But I feel like some people might be annoyed at my honesty. Like they'll be why doesn't she have the confidence to play that run? And it's like appreciate the fact that I'm not confident and I just told you that so you could like pull the weight a little bit while I get my stuff together. But I don't know, I feel like people would be like a little rude about it low key, like depending on who your partner is.
No, and that's like totally one of the other things I wanted to talk about, because like honesty and open communication like within your section is so important. So like I feel like you can either be in the situation where like, okay, so for example, Alex and I played in an orchestra together a lot. And oftentimes Alex would be very honest with me. She would give me feedback. She would say, "Hey, you're playing that wrong. Like your rhythm is wrong. Like you played a wrong note there." And it wasn't like the first time, and she didn't belittle me or anything, but as a younger player who had never played in an orchestra orchestra before. I relied on Alex's expertise a lot. I wasn't sure where I fit in, how to navigate that. So when she was like, "Hey, you did that wrong, or you learned this wrong, or you're with them, so make sure you listen to them." Like I didn't take that as like, a personal as a personal like offense that Alex thought I was a bad musician. I wasn't like, well, she's being so rude and overstepping because she needs to just stay in her lane. Like, no, like we're both there to make the product happen. And so her honesty was like really helpful to me. And I think a lot of people, especially in large ensemble settings, and I think even in chamber settings too, can just feel like they really want to be the star. Like they want to make it all about them. Like they want to be the person in the foreground. Like they really want all the attention. But that like totally defeats the purpose of being in any kind of ensemble. Like the purpose is to collaborate with others to make music happen. And if you're not willing to receive feedback from your section leader or from other people in your section, if you're not willing to take that with like grace and humility and like take that into consideration, then you're not going to be a good ensemble member and your product is going to suffer. Like not only are people going to not want to work with you, your music is not going to be as good as it could be.
And, like, to tie into all of that, there's a difference with being honest and being rude.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's all about delivery and intention. Like, was I intentionally telling Hannah to listen to, like, let's say, the French horns in a solo because she sounded bad? No, I was telling her to listen because in ensembles, and I tell this to anybody that I'm sitting next to most of the times if I know they'll be receive it in the right way. I always tell them to listen to what's happening around you because in large ensembles, yes, the conductor is conducting, but does that mean you're gonna follow the conductor even though the person you're playing with isn't following the conductor? In a concert, you have to follow the musician at that point, honestly speaking, because the conductor is there to keep you in time. But realistically speaking, if who you're playing with is not paying attention to the conductor, to hold that concert and that performance together, you have to learn to listen. So it's figuring out who you have to play with. And these are little things. It's not me telling you, oh, you need to listen to so and so because you're not playing with that. No, it's you need to listen to them for guidance and so that y'all could communicate and understand that y'all are supposed to be together. And it's just little things like that. I feel like when it comes to ensembles, musicians in general, they're just a hit or miss. Like I feel like I would tell Hannah the same thing I would tell some other people from undergrad, and the people from undergrad be like, Alex is so mean. She this, that, and the third. And I'd be like,
Are you wrong? Like, are you wrong? You're not
but
wrong.
but
Like,
I feel so bad. And I don't know if you want me to tell this story. We could always cut this out, but it's like I'm the type of person that if I'm a section leader or if I'm in a group, I'm going to be honest because it's a byproduct of me as well, right?
mhm.
And I remember it was one time when I was like maybe first or second year at ASU. I was like, where am I again? But I was at ASU and Hannah called me and I was like, what's wrong? And she had just finished crying because like the people weren't listening to her and she was being honest, but she was being Hannah honest, which was very, very nice. And it was frustrating because they weren't listening to her. So sometimes when people don't listen to you, even when you're trying to be nice, it's like, okay, well, now I have to up it and I actually have to be a little bit more stern. And maybe this may come across as being rude, but there's no other way for me to get across to you at this point. Because then at that point, it's causing me frustration while you're living your best life and the concert may sound like trash.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's like honesty is the best policy for me being a musician, both in large ensembles and chamber music. It's very iffy in chamber music because if you're not with like some strong individuals, it may come across as like just being rude, but in all truth, it's just honesty because at the end of the day, like I said, it's all a byproduct of you as well as a musician. So you want to put your best product out there. So yeah.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I remember that day. Like I remember that story. I was like, we never had issues when Alex was here. She fixed everything. Like why is that? And I was like, well, because she was so honest and she never attacked the person. She just said, "It sounds like you're not prepared." Like, and that was true because we weren't half the time because we hadn't put in the work. We hadn't done the stuff. And she wasn't saying, you must be a bad person because you're not prepared, or you must not want this enough because you're not prepared. She was just stating a fact. We were not prepared. And she would also state facts like, that's not together. again, not attacking the person, stating a fact to make the music better. And I think as musicians, we're so quick to take that kind of thing to heart, but we just need to not do that. And I think it's important that like people learn to give that kind of feedback that way as well, because oftentimes, like you said, the delivery is what can make it from helpful criticism to being rude. And I think a lot of times people are afraid of being rude, so they'll like dance around problems. That's like the one end of it, or they'll be so direct that they're perceived as rude. So find your happy medium. Go, Alex.
I just had a rehearsal this semester, and if people put one and one together, it's okay. But I just had a rehearsal like a few days ago, and it was interesting for sure. It was a chamber group, and after a run, the person went, "That was awful. That was trash." In my opinion, you should never say anything like that, because what made it awful and what made it trash? So then I started to break down what I perceived to actually have gone wrong. And the person who made that comment was the issue. And it kind of like, I know it rubbed them the wrong way. But my thing is, if you make a comment that something was bad, you need to individually single out what was wrong. I don't like when people make general comments, because if it's not a problem for everybody, then it's not a comment for everybody. And you need to specifically say that. So back to like large ensembles, let's say a sectional. This is where it always got iffy for me in undergrad, because the way I do sectionals and host sectionals most of the time is we play it through. If it's not together, then we break it down. So let's say clarinet 1 and 2 play together. Okay, cool. Clarinet 1 and 3 play it together. Okay, 2 and 3. Okay, something's still not right. Clarinet 3 is play it together. If it's not together, then I'm like, okay, everybody go down the line. And that's singling people out, but it's for you to understand that, okay, this is something for you to work on, and for me to understand what is actually wrong before being like, that was trash. And
Yeah.
one of my members and I were just like, and after I made the comment basically saying it was you not listening to us and you were doing your own thing, everybody else started to say that as well. So everybody was thinking this, but no one was saying this. And I'm just like, this is a safe space, but it's not going to be a safe space anymore if you just say everybody sounds like trash and it's awful. Comments like that are not helpful in any situation. So that's just a bad experience to keep in mind, to never do in any circumstance, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. General comments can really just not give the correct information or any information at all. Like it can just really shift the focus of the group from how can we fix this to a really negative mindset of just like, oh, this sucks and there's nothing that we can do about it. Yeah, totally. And something else that can help with that, like giving feedback in a helpful way, is like whenever you're talking about something that went wrong, and this is a good tip for anybody who's like even conducting large ensembles. I've received this like tip from my teachers whenever I'm teaching kids, but like whenever something goes horribly wrong, sometimes it is easier on the delivery if you say the person's instrument instead of their name. So if you just like take the personalization out of it from the start. So like if I was in my old quintet rehearsal, I would say, well, at this measure, I think bassoon took off and then horn was dragging, and so that caused oboe and flute to be out of line. I wasn't about to say, well, Delaney just decided to have a diva moment and take her own tempo, and Jacob wasn't even in the tempo at all. I love you, Delaney and Jacob, miss you a lot. But like that totally like helps steer the musical ship. It helps your goals be a little more clear without bringing other people like personally into it. And that's tricky to navigate sometimes. That takes some work and it takes some experience and it takes some messing up, honestly. Like it takes a couple times of you having those experiences of like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that way. Or, wow, this person really just ruined the vibe with how they said that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all about like, you said something that like really resonates with me, and it's like ruining the vibe. Like that sounds so like youth-like, but it's so true. Like what you say can affect the mood of the ensemble or the group. So be careful of what you say and how you say it. There's being honest, like we said, and there's just straight up being rude and just confrontational. Because if you tell me I sound awful, now I have a problem. I'm like, well, and at the end of the rehearsal, just so you know, I said, well, was it me? who wasn't listening proactively. And it wasn't me trying to fight you or anything. It's me being like, well, was it me? Is this something I need to work on? And they were like, no, it wasn't you. I wasn't saying it about you, Alex. I was saying it in general. The fact that you have to clarify that means that you already took offense to what I said, asking for clarity on what you said, right? So what you said clearly rubbed someone the wrong way. And now no one knows who's not listening.
And now you're totally not even focused on the musical problem because you're busy like, meow, 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 meow.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, don't make comments like that and expect that you just sit well with people. Like if I had told people they sound awful and like trash, I mean, yeah, you would have a reason to hate me for real. But I got the common sense to never tell someone that, because it's like, well, what was trash about it? Oh, we weren't listening. Who wasn't listening? But
And then
people are never comfortable clarifying to the extent of calling someone out individually. And if you know you aren't comfortable calling someone out individually, I say never make a general comment and just like do it professionally. There's so many ways to say things. There's so many words in this word. Like, use a different word.
yeah, let's do an example. So like, for example, if Alex and I are working on a project and there's lots of different parts and I'm playing clarinets 1 and 2 and she's playing clarinets 3 and 4 and something just isn't jiving, I could say, Alex, your clarinet 4 parts suck. What I should say is, Alex, to me, it sounds like clarinet 4 is dragging a little bit. What?
Okay. But literally that is how we talk all the time. Like if a part is behind, I'd be like, Hannah, I think your clarinet 2 is too fast, or I think your runs are uneven. So maybe listen back and check that. I tried to like fix it, but it's not possible. So maybe this is something you can adjust. It's just,
and it's as easy as that. We don't have to get offended. We don't have to get frustrated. We're just trying to fix the problem.
and then like, I mean, for example, in the scenario that I experienced, I said just that. I said, well, you've never done this before, but I think you aren't being aware of what we're doing. Like it was 6 people. I said, out of the 6 people here, I think 5 of us are together, but you're doing a tempo of your own. And you've never done this before, but it's what I'm currently hearing from that run through. And everybody else agreed. So I wasn't hearing things. And it's like just something like that. Not that was trash. I'll never get over that because what?
What? It doesn't literally fix anything.
Like it fixes nothing. And then the rest of the rehearsal, the person just went, yeah, we just need to proactively listen. Well, how do we proactively listen? Because 5 of us just said that you weren't listening to us and we were together. So
and that's like, yeah, that's like when people's egos get in the way of like getting stuff done. And that's ultimately like the moral of this story is like being in an ensemble is tough because you have to be able to take criticism well. You have to put a lot of work in, and maybe that work will pay off. And some days it doesn't. Some days it just doesn't gel. And there are times like that. But you have to be willing to like to take your own like pride out of it. Like that's the whole point of ensemble playing is surrendering your abilities, surrendering your agenda to the good of the group. All right. So like just check your ego at the door before every single rehearsal. And honestly, we could have just said it at the beginning of this podcast and then logged off because that's literally the moral of the story is just check your ego. And if it's there, don't bring it in. Like save it. Like don't even.
And I feel like there's just, yeah, like that's just it. And it's being a musician is a funny thing because you can look at it 2 ways. Like you can look at it, oh my gosh, this person is always attacking me, or oh my gosh, this person is trying to help me. And it's just who you are and how you perceive things that will give you that interpretation. And there's nothing the messenger can really do. Like we could do a little, but there's not a lot if you have a specific ego. And it's going to make you think everything everyone tells you is an attack when it really isn't.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So this whole entire thing has been like a crash course on like what not to do to be a good ensemble member. Okay. So like don't come for other people. Don't be unprepared. Don't take things personally. Don't be prideful. Don't be rude. all of those things. So what are some things, Alex, that your ensemble members do that make you enjoy being in that ensemble? Like, what are some ways that people like encourage you or make you feel good when you're in rehearsal?
Well, it's like giving credit where credit is due. It's like sometimes it's good to just be like, oh, that was really good, or give constructive feedback to be like, well, let's use it as a like a positive example in this instance. It's like, oh, I really like how Hannah did her articulation right there, so maybe we should match hers. It's like giving credit to Hannah amongst like 7 different clarinetists and being like, I really like her. Everybody listen to her and match her. Something like that. And then that
Yeah.
goes into the whole concept, like I'm looking at the points you made. It's like being communicative and also being willing to give helpful feedback, constructive feedback. Because giving feedback is an important skill to learn to do, especially if you want to be an educator or teacher of any sorts, private instructor, and just being able to like there's this in flute studio class because I'm doing flute applied lessons. They do verbal feedback. So in clarinet studio, we do written feedback, but they do verbal feedback after every performance. And the professor is like, you have to start with something good and then say something that they can improve on. And it's always that order. And it always that order, but if it's not that order, you have to do those 2 things at least. And it's just always saying something good with something not negative, but something that needs improvement. So
Yeah, definitely. Those like little shout outs, like, we've all received them, but like when it happens, you're just like, oh, I did something right today. Like, it just makes you feel so good right in the moment. You're like, yes, I'm doing one thing in my life. One thing in my life is going right, right? Something we do at UNT that I think is like really sweet is I mean, people probably do this everywhere, but we didn't do it at Messiah, so it was new to me. Like after a solo or something in our rehearsals, like if we thought it was really good, like we'll just like pat our legs. Like we just like it's just like automatic. Like if we're sitting in our seats and everybody like we'll just go, yeah. And if you're close enough, you could be like, yeah, and like look at them and do it. But like it's just like in that moment affirmations that like, oh, like my peers are cheering for me, like my section is like behind me, like they're rooting for me, they're cheering me on, and that's just like feels really good. Also, good way to make friends is just like bring extra pencils, and if they need pencils, just like pass it down the row. That's always nice and helpful. Somebody had extra paper clips the other day and like gave them to me, and that was just like so sweet. I was so thankful for that, for all of our music organizing and stuff like that. Yeah, just like don't forget that like the people you play next to are humans too. Like talk with them, get to know what they like to do when they're not having their clarinet in their hands. Like they have an entire life outside of the 3 hours that you're sitting in that ensemble together. Like, I don't know, you don't have to be friends with your section mates, but take it from 2 people who were section mates. It's a lot more fun when you are.
yeah. And I mean, something that you said that I also agree with is just like getting to know the people next to you and like creating small talk. Because it could be intimidating. Let's say, for example, if you're in a large ensemble and your stand partner is like either 2 grades below you, which means like you're probably a master's and they're an undergrad, or like you're a doctorate student and they're an undergrad. It could be either way, like at ASU, like it's mixed that much. So it's like just creating a friendly environment where an ensemble is work, but it could also be something enjoyable because I like I can't even finish that sentence properly. I like large ensembles, but I don't love it. What I do love is like being able to like create music with my peers and those sitting next to me. So it's just creating a friendly environment is very important to me. And then also it's just like being attentive of your section. So for example, there was one year a student wasn't at a rehearsal or they I think it was a rehearsal or a sectional or something. And I was like, where are they? And unfortunately, some people in my section were just like, I don't know, they're an adult. They could figure it out on their own. And I was just like, and as soon as we go into the sectional, guess what the conductors asked? Hey, where's so and so? Everybody looked to me because I was the only one concerned about where this person was. So I had texted this person, but I didn't tell any of those people who were acting that way because obviously they don't care, but I clearly do because I'm like, where's this person? Just making sure that they're okay. Because I was like, hey, just so you know, like we're in so and we're practicing now. Are you supposed to be here? And it's just little things like that. It's like quiet acts of kindness. Like you don't have to verbalize. I checked on them and I didn't say that in the ensemble when the conductors asked that. But the fact that the conductors asked that and I had previously asked that, everybody looked to me. I don't know. I think it's just called common sense and being kind. But you'd be surprised, like, regardless of where you are, like, that is how people act a lot of the times. They think it's not their responsibility to check in on others, but it's something that I do without even thinking about it because I would also like it if people would check in on me if something were wrong. Or like I remember I had a stand partner who's still at ASU, and she had told me previously she lived like 20 minutes away from campus walking, and she walked to her apartment. And we finished concerts at like 9, got back to like campus at 9:30, 10. And I literally said, "You're not walking there. I'm going to drive you home." And it's just little things like that. Like, I don't know, you get to know people in your ensemble so that you could also like take care of them too. Maybe I'm just a mom, but it's like it's like why would you hear that someone has to walk 20 minutes to their apartment after a 9 p.m. concert and just be like, "Okay, see you tomorrow," knowing that they have to walk that in the nighttime. No.
Yeah. And like I don't it's all about building trust, right? Like you don't have to be best friends with that person, but like if you two don't trust each other, do you think you're going to be able to play a part together? Like do you think you're going to be able to rely on each other to make a good musical product? So like the more you can feel that you can trust the people next to you in real life, and that can be shown in ways as simple as, hey, do you need a ride home after this rehearsal? Or hey, we're in this room, we started at 3, just wanted to make sure you're okay, stuff like that. That just shows that like you care and that you recognize that like you're all on the same team here and like you have each other's back, and that's going to make you play better together, because that's what being in an ensemble is anyways, is trusting on other people to have your back to achieve your common goal. And yeah, those are just very, very human ways to do that. So definitely don't neglect that part of being a good section member too.
Yep. And then what else? I was gonna say in regards, Hannah has something important here, but I'm gonna flip it. She said bring snacks. Um I'm a snack girly. I always have snacks in my bag, and people think it's the funniest thing ever until they're like, "I'm starving." I'm like, "You want a granola bar?" But if you're a musician and if you're in a large ensemble, don't think you're a cool kid for walking in and saying, "Haha, I haven't ate anything since 8 a.m. this morning and it's currently 2 p.m." That's not cool. You're probably not going to be able to focus. You might pass out. You might get dizzy while playing your instrument. And if you say something like that, I'm quick to tell you, go eat a snack, go to the vending machine if I don't have anything on me, or go drink some water. Or like, "Are you okay?" Because I don't know. I feel like in music school, there's a few things that we praise low key, but they're not praiseworthy. And it's lack of sleep and lack of food. In addition to that, it's the lack of concentration to your academic studies outside of musical ones. So those don't make you cool kids. Make sure you focus on those things too, because it kind of concerns me that you think it's cool to talk about how you haven't had anything to eat or how little sleep you've had, but how much you've practiced. I'm like, yeah, no.
I think we need to have a new section on this podcast, like every episode, and it's going to be called Mama Alex's Hot Takes. And Mama Alex is just going to give a hot take every single week. Like, do not let your ensemble members walk home at night. Do not let your friends go hungry. Always have a snack, because this is gold right here. These are good reminders from an older, wise
But I feel like in order to be a good ensemble member, you need these other things, which is food and sleep. Like,
yeah.
and you have to take into consideration, like, haha, yay, you showed up to 6 hours of ensemble this week, but you won't be an ensemble member if you fail your other classes, because what's gonna happen? And it's like, remember these things, like all of these things combined are what makes you a good ensemble member, both in college and on a professional level. Because think of it this way. If you're a teacher and you heard your student say, "I got no sleep last night, but I've been playing for the past 8 hours," Like if you're encouraging that, that's not okay. Like Dr. Gardner literally has a snack wall. And if you say you have not like had anything to eat yet, he will tell you to come in and get a snack. He even sent an email, I think it was last semester, like concerned that people were like bragging about how little they eat. And it's like you're in your lesson for an hour. Basically, a lesson to me is like a performance, and you're giving it your all on no sleep and no food.
That's
It's all
terrible.
it's all about time management, you know.
And hot take. I mean, it's not a Mama Alex hot take, but you're not going to be a good ensemble member if you're not taking care of yourself. Like if you are not meeting your own personal needs, like you can't expect to go in and like be everybody's savior in the ensemble. Like you're just not going to be able to do well. And that's frustrating because then you're keeping other people from achieving the musical goal at hand because you don't care enough to take care of yourself. And they need you to meet the goal. So if you aren't at your best, you're not going to meet the goal. Sorry. But
But
yeah,
what's your series gonna be called? I'm hot Alex take. You're
what's my series going to be called? I don't know. Oh, mine can be cute stories from the week. I feel like you always have like very sage advice, but then like I always have like little like antidotes from like my life. So this is a real life story whenever a snack picked me up. So I was having a really bad day because I lightly rear-ended somebody. It wasn't like a big situation, but it was my first fender bender. I was just emotionally shook and very upset about it. And so then I had to go to my wind symphony rehearsal. I was like, this is the last place I want to be right now because I'm still so upset about this thing. And I hadn't had time to eat my lunch because I normally eat in the car, but I had rear-ended somebody. So I was like thinking about that instead of eating my lunch while I was driving back. And I was just sitting there. I was sad and I was stressed and I was so hungry. And then my one friend, he was like, I brought banana muffins. Do you want one? I was just like, yeah, I do. And it totally changed my day. It was like the best banana nut muffin I've ever had. So everybody hit up Eric Morales. He makes the best banana chocolate chip muffins you've ever had, and they will change your day. And that's a real life example of why eating is important because I felt so much better afterwards.
yeah.
Oh, question. Let's say that your conductor or your chamber coach just says something that kind of hacks everybody off. And everybody's just kind of like, oh, didn't know you felt that way. Should you join your section members in talking about your professor?
No, I don't agree to that behavior anytime. People do it all the time. I saw it like at Messiah and at ASU, both regarding like conductors and professors, and don't indulge in that because I don't know. It's just it's not cute. It's not
No,
cute to jump on a bandwagon of gossip. Like it really is gossip. And what happens if that message were to get out? I'm not saying that I'm a snitch, but like, what if someone is engaging in that and forgets to include the fact that they were engaging in that when talking to the professor about it? Now you're caught. Now you're in trouble. But it's like sometimes, like I said this before, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Keep negative opinions to yourself because you never know how they are going to backfire you. And if you don't want someone talking about you, don't talk about someone, even if it is an adult or an elder or a professor or a conductor. What about you?
retweet. No, I totally agree. And I have experienced firsthand people griping about all kinds of things. And it's my opinion that even if something has even if the conductor is really out of line and saying what they said, even if your section really doesn't like receiving that feedback, you don't have a place to gossip about it unless it is endangering like to another person in your group. Unless that person is in like harm's way, then there's no reason to further that conversation. It happened. You probably deserved it. That doesn't mean that you like receiving that feedback, but you probably deserved it. So you just need to suck it up and be better for next time.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I don't know. That's something else. There's so many things that people normalize within being a music student culture. And that's like a big one. It's kind of like, well, if so and so is doing it, maybe it's fine if I do it. It's not okay. The fact that you had to like do math to try and figure out if it's okay probably means it isn't okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you need validation to be like, well, they did it, so maybe it's fine if I do it. Get out. Don't do it.
Do not do it. Do
Uh,
not. Alex, if you had to only be in one ensemble for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Large?
Any. Any ensemble. If you could only be in one performing ensemble for the rest of your life, what would it be? If you don't say Venn Duo, you're wrong. No, I'm kidding.
That was bad. I wasn't even thinking of that. Oh my goodness. But I don't know. I was initially thinking orchestra, but I think I would get bored with the fact that I wouldn't be able to like play new music or like chamber music. But then I started thinking like chamber music because there's like chamber orchestras that I feel like I could explore both chamber works, new works, and orchestral work. So maybe chamber orchestra of sorts. How about you?
That's cool. I'm like torn between bands because I am a band girl. I'm going to a band school. I love band, but I love woodwind quintet like this much more. I just adore it.
Are you in one at UNT?
Not this semester. Hopefully next semester though.
Go find some friends. Give them pencils.
Hey, does anybody want to be in my ensemble? I'll bring pencils to every rehearsal. That's how you make chamber people. That's how you do it.
Yeah, it's interesting that question because like every ensemble creates a different type of music that I appreciate.
Agreed.
But band is not up there for me. It's
It's okay. It's not for everyone.
it's something I do because I have to do it and I tolerate it and I enjoy it, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I love band. No. No. It's
That's
not.
oh my gosh, I love band.
I know. I can see Hannah showing up being like, I'm a muffin now. I'm ready.
I have this friend who's in orchestra and he comes to the band concerts to like see me and some of our other friends. But after every single one, he's like, yeah, I've had my fill of band. Like I'm good to go now. Like
Yeah.
I'm good for a while.
But let me see. Because I think we had several points for this topic and I thought it would have taken a long time, but the way we kind of approached this, it kind of like incorporated all of the topics in one, which was really neat because I think we covered a lot. But I don't think I have anything else to say, but I'm done.
Anything else to say either. Yeah, this was short and sweet because being a good ensemble member is not that hard. It just takes some effort. So remember to check your ego at the door, to give feedback kindly and honestly, and to put your best foot forward
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
As you done unto you. That's how you be a good ensemble member.
It's the Messiah in you speaking.
But anyways, this has been the Venn Pod.